So, okay, so that's what you started, and you started blogging.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so...
Where? On what platform?
WordPress.
Oh, yeah, okay.
On WordPress.
And so when was that?
In 2011.
Okay, so you're an early blogger, relatively early.
And I gave up television to find time to blog outside work. So
you gave up watching television?
Yeah, I gave up watching television.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
For everybody watching and listening, if you're looking for time to do something that you want to do, you can always give up something that's not particularly useful that you are doing regularly. And that giving up TV, that was probably good for you too.
Oh, it was great. It was the best thing I ever did. So I found time to research and write, and I started to just have this insatiable curiosity about all the things that I was eating, and then looking at the ingredients and posting the ingredients for people to see what they were eating. And my friends and my family, like my mom and my few friends that wanted to read my blog at the time. But it started to reach a wider community, and I realized there's other people out there looking for this information on what they were eating, and there was a food movement starting. And it was probably when I wrote the article Chemical Filet or Chick-fil-A that went viral, and Chick-fil-A invited me to their headquarters to consult on their menu changes and ingredient changes, that I finally made the decision.
Why did they do that?
They were smart. They were smart. They rolled out the red carpet. They picked me up in a cow-wrapped car. They were really smart to try to make friends with me. More food industry executives should hear that message, because the reason why Kellogg's is suffering so bad right now is because they wouldn't let us in, right? We just recently went to their headquarters with over 400,000 signatures to get artificial food dyes and a preservative called BHT that's linked to cancer out of their cereals. And they wouldn't let us in. They wouldn't even sit down with us to take the petitions in person. So what is that going to do to activists? It's going to rile us up. It's going to make us mad. It's going to make us go harder. And we started a national boycott. And now Fruit Loops is down 54% in the last 12 weeks on grocery store shelves. And their stock price is down. And they're going to...
I got to say,
yes.
Fruit Loops should be down. No, seriously.
Well, of course, right?
I knew that was not a good food when I was like 4.
Right. And
I'd like... Some Fruit Loops were fine, but really...
Yeah. The reason Fruit Loops is such a good example, they already make other cereals without these additives for virtually everywhere else. Canada, Australia, Europe, India, everywhere almost. And this has got to stop across the board. And so Kellogg's is one example of a larger problem.
Concerned with Fruit Loops, for example, like, are you concerned about the fact that it's basically sugar?
I mean, it's not. I'm concerned. Number one, I think the main concern I have with Fruit Loops is I don't want anyone to ever eat it again. Right?
Yeah, okay. Well,
so this is
a major concern,
right?
But what is it about Fruit Loops particularly that, if you have to focus on what you think isn't acceptable, what aspect of it is? You talked about the chemicals, but it's also a highly processed carbohydrate.
That's right.
It's radically sugar loaded
and targeted towards little children, and the biggest profit generator for Fruit Loops is actually in U.S. schools. In schools.
Oh yes.
So it's being sold to schools and served for breakfast to our little children, and then it has chemicals in it that affect their brains. It causes hyperactivity. In Europe, you have a cigarette-type warning label on any product that has artificial food dyes that warns parents, that says may cause adverse effects on activity and attention in children. In Europe, parents get to have full informed consent on a product. Here in the United States, we don't have that, right? We allow our companies to just put these poisons in our food when they've already reformulated them better for other countries. And then on top of it, these carcinogens are made from petroleum and
these are the colorings?
These are the colorings, yeah. And just the way that they are produced create all kinds of carcinogens and other problems, immune response, allergies, other things in the human body, eczema. So one of the things that I first did when I went through my transformation is I suddenly gave up artificial food dyes. I just said, no artificial food dyes. And just that alone helped me transition to a better, cleaner, healthier life, because the products that didn't contain artificial food dyes were few and none, right? At the time. Now there's a whole another industry being created without a lot of these chemicals, which is great. You know, one being my company, Vani, where we're creating products that are processed, like our bar is processed, but it's made with ingredients you would find in your own kitchen. Dates, maple syrup, nuts, right? And that's the kind of food we should be consuming and have available to the public to eat, not food that is made with poisonous carcinogens that make, for example, like let's take yellow number 6 that's in Cheetos. Yellow number 6, there's a new study that just came out.
Cheetos are a very Fruit Loops like food. It's like they're
yeah, but how many? I mean,
stain your fingers.
They're terrible. But I grew up on them, and so many children eat them, and they're served in schools too.
Oh yes,
and Doritos, and
they're a pretty sketchy item as well, all things considered.
But this is what we're eating. You know, this is what kids are getting after their soccer match. This is what is happening out there that's available whenever you go to a show or anywhere else. This is what people, I mean, you go through the airport, that's what's available. And if these are riddled with these carcinogens like yellow 6, for example, that they just showed that turn the skin of mice transparent. Like, I can't make this up. Like, this is horrifying what it's doing to animals in animal studies, but we allow ourselves to continue to eat it.